The Omnipod tubeless insulin pump. It is pretty much the main player in the world as the go-to tubeless insulin pump. In fact, it's the only one available in the United States. But will that be forever? Probably not. Its competitor Tandem is working on its own tubeless pump, the Sigi. I've talked about it on this channel, and Medtronic is also working on one as well. Although some of their plans backfired, which I have a whole video on you can check out. And so today I'm gonna get into all the features that I wanna see on Omnipod in order to kind of get ahead of the other competition, but also just to like innovate the product that's kind of been the same for about 11 years, form factor wise. This design of Omnipod has been around for a while now. It came out in 2013 as the Omnipod Eros. It was 20% smaller than its predecessor. Then in 2018 came the Omnipod Dash, the same form factor, a new PDM, and now we've got Omnipod 5, the same form factor, but it brought that automated insulin delivery. Today, I want to talk about what Omnipod 6 could look like. What features do we want to see, both the software and the hardware? I'm going to be listing all of those out. I actually did go to Omnipod headquarters and learned a little bit about what the future could look like. You gotta check out that video, put it in the description. But welcome to the channel. I'm Justin, I have type 1 diabetes, and here on Diabetic Tech, I talk all things diabetes tech, news, and management with industry leaders on my podcast on Mondays. And then on Fridays, I've got videos like this coming out on YouTube. And on social, I'm putting out videos almost every day about the news, my own experiences with diabetes. So if you're not following me on TikTok or Instagram, go do that now. I've been using Omnipod for about 3 years now, mostly DIY open source apps, but I used Omnipod 5 the last few months. I'm using it right now. And I wrote all about that in my newsletter or on my blog. So you should go read that about that transition, what I like, what I didn't like. And I've also got a full-on podcast going into my 3 months on Omnipod 5. Links to everything is in the show notes. You can sign up for the newsletter down there as well. If you enjoyed today's video and want to see more stuff like this, make sure you don't forget to subscribe right down there and give this video a like. So without further ado, here are my top 5 feature wants for Omnipod 6. I couldn't think of 6, but there probably are 6 in here, but I organized it as 5. Let's go. Let's start with some upgrades to hardware. And the first one is, I want to see a bolus button on this device, and it is possible. So first of all, the thing I like most about Omnipod 5 is that it connects the pump directly to the continuous glucose monitor. So you don't have to have your phone or PDM on you to get automated insulin. You can go out and it's still gonna automate. But the one thing you can't do is give yourself insulin if you have a low. The pod will beep, which is an amazing feature, letting you know you're low. You can eat snacks to bring yourself back up. But what if you want to have a snack and your phone's not with you and you don't want to bring your phone with you? You can't currently treat yourself with insulin with Omnipod. You do have the ability, if you're on a Dexcom G7, to connect directly to an Apple Watch. I've talked about that on here, and that's a great feature. I can go out, see my levels on my watch if I'm wearing it, have the looping going, and I'm in the know, but you can't dose for insulin. That is why I want to see a bolus button on this pod. And I think it could work similarly to the Eversense implantable CGM. But there is a transmitter on the outside that has a button. The Eversense transmitter is waterproof or water resistant to a degree where you can swim with it. And I want to see that same technology, that same type of button, whether it be the one that's on the older transmitter or the one on the newer transmitter. I'd love to see that come to Omnipod. Give me the ability to give myself a bolus in increments of 15, 30, 45 grams of carbs, or 1, 2, 3 units, whatever. I would love that. And that would truly make the Omnipod system completely disconnected from everything else. You've got everything on you and you're good to go. We're also seeing bolus buttons on Tandem products. They have both the Mobi and the T-Slim, and there's a button on these products that allow you to give yourself increments of insulin just using that button. If Omnipod brought this in, it would be a game changer for the system. And honestly, probably have me switch from DIY to Omnipod completely. At least for now, DIY systems are probably gonna have to stick to the dash pods. Next up, let's talk about size, which kind of interweaves with wear time. I want to see an Omnipod pump that holds more insulin. Currently, this one holds up to 200 units, a minimum of 80 units. I want to see one that holds 300 units. Why? Because this pump was cleared for use for people with type 2 diabetes. And 9 out of 10 people who have diabetes have type 2 diabetes. There is a huge market of people who could benefit from AID and specifically the Omnipod. The thing is, in its current form factor, only 38% of people with type 2 can use this. They use an average of 96 units of insulin per day. With a 300 unit pump, 64% of people with type 2 diabetes would be able to use that. Now, if Omnipod made this chamber larger, 300 units, maybe even more, would they be able to make it smaller? I'm not sure. And maybe that would mean they stick with the current size of it, but they're able to, make the chamber larger. Now, what I'd want to see from a larger chamber is longer wear time. We're already seeing insulin pumps, specifically Medtronic. They have the extended infusion set, which lasts up to 7 days. Imagine being able to wear an Omnipod for 7 days, and then you've got your continuous glucose monitor that lasts 10 to 15 days. Like, that would be incredible. I would love to see a longer wear time coming to the Omnipod. Now, of course, my other want with size would be for the Omnipod to get smaller, and maybe that happens with 200 units. Would I want a longer wear time or a smaller pod? I'd want longer wear time. I just thought of that in real time. I don't mind the size of this at all. In fact, I love the size of it. It's kind of perfect. If this lasted for 7 days in its current form factor, give that to me. Medtronic's worked some wonders on their infusion set in order for it to last that long. And Tandem is also working on an extended infusion set. So with other products lasting up to 7 days, I can only imagine that those companies' tubeless pumps will follow suit and that Omnipod needs to stay in the game by adding up to 7 days of wear time. The next thing I want to see is a fully closed loop algorithm. So currently, all the algorithms that are FDA cleared are hybrid closed loop algorithms. They are automating insulin delivery, keeping us from going high or low or doing their best to do it, but they're not fully closed loop because we need to log when we are eating meals and how big those meals are. We need to adjust our ranges when we're working out. That is hybrid, that we are still part of the equation. I don't want us to be part of the equation anymore. And there are DIY apps like IAPS Trio that are already automating insulin without the user. I've talked about that app on this channel. I'll throw a link to some Trio content down in the description. So I know these companies are working on it. And in fact, Omnipod is working on an upgraded version of their algorithm, and it's called Evolution. Insulet, the producer of Omnipod, already put some users on the newer Evolution algorithm, and they had some pretty promising results, but they're not there yet. People who have type 1 diabetes, they use the Omnipod 5 system currently out now without putting any entries in, and they got about 37% in range. But on the Evolution algorithm, they got 57% in range. So that is a huge bump. It isn't above the 70% threshold that the ADA standards call for, but we're on the way there. The fact that they're at 57% without doing anything is phenomenal. For people with type 2 diabetes, they found on Omnipod 5, they had about 52% time in range, not putting entries on the current system. And then that went up to 65% time in range when they were on the new Evolution algorithm. So there is still some way to go, but it is cool to see that Omnipod is working on it. And I'm hopeful that the next version of Omnipod will have this latest algorithm. But I'm also hopeful that they're not going to just wait for a new piece of hardware to bring that algorithm. If they can bring that next generation of algorithm to the current form factor, go for it. I don't see why they wouldn't want to have the best treatment available software-wise, at least, with their current product. If you want a full video breakdown of the Evolution algorithm and what we know so far, give this video a like and I'll make the video for you. In the meantime, if we don't get the Evolution algorithm just yet, there are a couple things that I really want to see software-wise that we don't currently have on the Omnipod 5 system. One of them is the ability to delete carb entries. Right now, if you log 60 grams of carbs and then you wind up only eating 20 grams, you can't delete those carb entries. You still have that insulin in, but the algorithm doesn't adjust based off of what you wound up doing. And I got spoiled with DIY Loop being able to do that. We have a new pump, the Twist insulin pump, which is using an FDA cleared algorithm of Loop that allows you to delete carb entries within the first hour after they've been entered. And I want to see that come to the Omnipod 5 system, especially as you're still kind of putting entries in. And I'd love to see it come to other systems out there also. Another thing I want to see is the ability for alerts to be turned off on the controller if the pump is in range. If the pump knows that the controller is nearby, for the alert to only go off on the pump. Right now, getting alerts on both the pump and the phone, and the pump and the PDM is just too many alerts, and I'm just not a big fan of that. Next, I want to see more interoperability with continuous glucose monitors. And we're already seeing some movement there, but I know that there can be better movement. So right now we've got the Dexcom G6 working with Omnipod, the Dexcom G7, and more recently, the Freestyle Libre 2 Plus. Very exciting news, but the Libre 2 Plus and the G7 only work on the PDM currently. The iPhone app is available for people in the US. I want to see that come out to everyone else. But with the Libre 2 Plus, it's somewhat older technology. There's already the Libre 3 Plus, which is way smaller, has better accuracy, and is just a better product overall. And I'd like to see Omnipod bring compatibility there. But I also want to see compatibility with the Eversense implantable CGM. I've talked about that a lot on here. I had Eversense come on recently and talk about the future of the CGM and all the upgrades with the latest one that lasts for 1 year. This CGM gets implanted in your arm for about, in like a 20-minute procedure. You can wear it for a year. It needs a calibration once a week after the first 13 days. It is such a cool device, but the thing it's missing is working with insulin pumps. So Insulet, if you're listening, bring Eversense interoperability to your pump. People will get the Eversense if they're able to use it with their Omnipod. And I think that that could be a huge game changer. So more interoperability with CGMs. And that leads me to my last one, which is a smartwatch app. I want to be able to control my Omnipod with a smartwatch app. And this could potentially help us with the fact that I don't have my phone on me and I don't need a Bolus button on it. Just create an app that maybe connects directly to the Omnipod, although I'm not sure if that's quite possible, although we are seeing it with the Dexcom G7. One of the things I loved most about DIY Loop was the ability to log carbs and change my target ranges right from a watch app. And that's coming to the new Twist pump. And with Omnipod, I want to see that too. I want to be able to open up my Apple Watch, log carbs, or just change my range for activity feature, whatever, right from my wrist. And it really is just an extension of the iPhone app. The Twist pump is doing it, so there is a standard there for Omnipod to look at and to base it off of. So there you have it. Those are my top wants for the next iteration of Omnipod, maybe even just feature upgrades for the current model. But come on, I want to see an upgraded pod, smaller, or one that lasts longer would be freaking amazing. What do you want to see? Let me know in the comments, like your number one feature, maybe that I said or that you want that I didn't say in the comments. Maybe I'll even expand on some of that. And when do you think that Omnipod's going to release a new pump? Are they waiting for the other companies to play their cards and then say, oh, well, by the way, we're releasing this pump? Because come on, since 2013, 11 years, technology changes a lot in 11 years, and I think that they probably have some newer models of this that are already like ready for them to talk about. But I mean, why should they, when there's no direct competition, why should they put it out? Yeah, I mean, obviously for the betterment of people, but when you look at business, if they are the only person doing something, they don't need to improve their product a crazy amount physically until there is a competitor that says, oh wait, we can do it better. So I'm excited for the future of Omnipod. I hope that some of these things on the list, I hope Insulet's listening, but I hope some of this comes out. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you like this type of video. Listen to the podcast here in video form, but also on all podcast platforms. That's on Mondays. And we've got that newsletter that goes out every other week and a blog where I'm writing every week an article. So you've got all links to those down in the show notes. I'm Justin, and I'll tech you later.